Okay, looks like we're ready to go. Is everybody on? I see Marilyn is here.
Yes, thank you.
Good, okay. So a very short agenda today. I think most everyone for sure on the committee and most everyone else has seen the proposed street project plan from developed by Tom Aldorfer and Wally Cordes. And looking at that, I'll just make a few initial comments and then let Tom or Wally embellish wherever is necessary. Looking at that, these are the list of the next most in need of repair streets. Some of these streets are not in terrible shape. It's just that they are now in the queue. And the nice part about that is we finally feel like we have caught up to the street repair that needs to be done on an annual basis. And it's my understanding that starting probably next year, when we perhaps redo Fountain or some of the streets located in the historic district proper, we will actually be on like a 15 to 20 year redo of those, which is about the length of time this particular street treatment lasts. So we will be on a normal rotation, hopefully, that our streets will stay in good condition and not some not good, but our streets will stay in good condition. And this rotation will continue. Obviously, if the street is in excellent condition, we won't do it. But if it's not up to snuff or just not, up to normal grade, we'll just go ahead and redo that street. So we'll be on a normal rotation. The other comment that I will make is total expenditure expected. Wally, please remind me of that number. Is that 150,000 roughly? I
It's
believe.
like 160.
Or 160, I'm sorry, 160,000.
Yes, after repairs are made, 160.
Correct. And what is available for the 2020 street program based on incoming funding is 200,000. So we're using the vast majority of it, but we're still able to build a little bit of a bank, which is outstanding. So I will let Wally and Tom make any additional comments about this that need to be made, but I'm very pleased with where we are at the moment.
Can I ask Wally a question? Wally and Tom, was there any
Certainly.
carryover from 2019?
Well, at this point, we have $201,000, which is carryover from 2019 and what we received for the past 5 months.
Okay.
I did anticipate receiving less funds for the remainder of the year due to less gasoline consumed and the coronavirus effects, which should restart next year when things get back to normal. However, recall that we added a gasoline tax that would have raised $40,000 additional for this year, but you can set that aside because gasoline sales are almost null and void. So next year will be a much better year. So with the 201,000 available, we're projecting an additional 49,000 for about $250,000 this year in available cash by year end. So the 160 program, as Mike said, leaves a starting balance for carryover next year.
Do we keep that in streets or do we put that into general fund?
It's a good question, Alan. It always stays in the restricted street construction fund.
Good. Can that fund be used for storm sewer repair? Of course, that ain't gonna be near enough. But
if it's street related, it's often used to buy our salt, to buy parts and equipment for the salt spreaders, and to buy blacktop.
Just general maintenance of streets, right of ways, sidewalks, that type of stuff.
Yeah. So in a way, yes, Alan, it could. If there's a storm catch space and needs repair, we could take money out of that for that, although we have a separate fund for that.
I got a question. And maybe you're going to talk about this. If you are, I'll pass. But Glendale Avenue is on the list. Glendale Avenue isn't paved.
No, Glendale Avenue wasn't. It was probably Glendale or
Glendale Avenue.
No.
It's on the list, entire length of Glendale Avenue.
There are about 3 or 4 houses on Glendale
It
Avenue.
wasn't. They've got it down as at Glendale Avenue, but yeah, that isn't one because it was Morris, Greenwood, Walnut. They've got Glendale Avenue, but
That's just not paved.
no, and the yardage on that, I never noticed that because maybe they were thinking Glendale Avenue. Yeah, Glendale Avenue from Carruthers to Walnut.
No, that's correct. If you go
Yeah.
out Morris Avenue to where the stop sign is
Yeah.
and turn right, that's Glendale Avenue.
Correct.
Now, Glendale Avenue also goes to the left where it's gravel.
Wait, I thought that was Walnut.
No, not yet. When you get to the sharp turn where the northeast parcel formerly called Johnny Park is, then it
That
turns
becomes
into
Walnut.
It does.
Okay,
And then
Got
as you go farther to the north, it turns into Greenwood.
okay, so there's no paving of the currently unpaved Glendale Avenue.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Got
that's
it,
right.
thank you.
And Nancy, Wally explained to me why we don't pave that. It doesn't meet the guidelines of a street that Glendale would maintain.
I thought that was by the request of the homeowners.
It's actually an undedicated private street.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
At some point, should they wish to develop back there, they would have to have our engineer describe the specifications of making it a dedicatable street and then have their expense do that.
Okay.
Then I have a question
Sure.
on the expense of a little over $14,000 to repave Glendale Avenue, the length you're speaking of,
Yep.
from Morse Avenue to
Walnut.
Walnut is almost $15,000, and yet it is slightly over $22,000 to repave the entire length of Morse Avenue. Why does it cost so much to repave such a short distance on Glendale Avenue?
I'll refer that to Tom.
The distance is very similar
Yeah.
from Walnut to Morris to from Morris to Sharon at that point. It's a little bit longer, but not much. Morris is where it meets into Glendale Avenue.
So why is it more the width?
Morris is more.
Morris is very much longer
22 versus 14.
than Glendale Avenue, just from Morse to Walnut. But we're not speaking of the left side of Glendale Avenue, which is currently unpaved.
And
You're looking at, I'm sorry, you're looking at a little over 1,000 more square yards of Morris Avenue. So pricing would be, that's about the range. I mean, when you're looking at
and
almost
bear in
a
mind,
third
the
more.
width of the streets are different. So if one street's wider and slightly longer or shorter, it could still be more than the road that's more narrow. But what we did was have our contractor go out and measure all the streets with a laser and determine the required amount of quantity to do that. And they price it based on the quantity, which I think is $6.40 some cents, $6.42 per square yard.
And just to interject quickly here, I did the math. That math matches for Morse and Glendale Avenue at $6.42 a square yard.
Okay.
I only raised the question because it seems that, well, let me just state it in the affirmative. Perhaps we could change Glendale Avenue where it says entire length to more correctly denote which part of Glendale Avenue we're speaking of. Because this easily gives the suggestion that we're repaving the entire length, which is what it says, and we're not doing that.
I can do that. I can do that.
It could be of what is paved or whatever of Glenville.
I can say from Morris to Walnut, and that'll be pretty
Thank you.
specific.
All right.
Good idea.
Just a question on Glendale Avenue. The sidewalk that borders the south side there that goes almost over a little creek, do we have that on our repair schedule someplace down the road?
Are you talking about the bridge, Mike? The wooden
Yeah,
bridge?
yeah.
We rebuilt them about 11 years ago, 12 years ago.
Did some more, the board work, footboard, that was all replaced. Yeah, probably 11, 12 years ago, with treated lumber, but they seem to be in good shape. Just,
Well, I don't know.
Looks
I've got
kind of
one-
leaning.
I've got the one over on Glendale Avenue. It's slightly leaning, and we're going to put some supports in that. It's not that it's
Okay.
fallen through. It's just the foundation of it is kind of settled and sunk a little bit on the one end.
Okay.
So
Okay. Thank you.
Just a question for me. I noticed that the Glendale Avenue work contains something called pre-application repairs. Could that account for some of the price differential?
I believe Glendale Avenue north of this, they're going to do.
I have that.
It's right on this. You got it broke
Well,
down.
there was that leak that was there during the winter, and so there was a huge hole in the street that had a temporary patch to it. So I don't know, maybe that's the issue.
4 streets get pre-application repairs. So there are 4 streets that get pre-application repairs that have been identified and included in the bid. The total for all 4 streets is $10,000. So I think on average you could, where it says, let's see, Glendale Avenue has 4 repairs. So that's pretty much half of the $10,000 or 45% of it. So you're probably looking at $4,000 to $5,000 in repairs.
So that just accounts for part of the difference in the price, because
It does.
as I see it, Maryland's correct. Morris is considerably longer than the section of Glendale Avenue that we are resurfacing. But if Glendale Avenue requires some additional repair work, that might account for the higher price.
Yeah.
Well, the pre-application repairs are separate from the totals that you see in that descriptor.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 150 plus 10. So the total is approximately 160,000 as we started off with. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got one more question. On Coral Avenue, especially the westernmost part, there are some really bad spots in the pavement that was just done, I think, last year. There are at least 4 or 5 spots where the finish coat, the sealing stuff is gone, and it's cracked, and there are holes in the layer on Coral.
Whereabouts?
Pardon me?
Whereabouts?
If you, let's see, by the church, if you head west, it's in the middle of the road. It doesn't look like it was caused by any construction. By the church, by Kay Mura's house, and then following Coral up before you start to go up the hill. There are more. There are spots where it just looks like that paving material just lifted and went away. So my question is, can we get these guys back to fix that? Do we have to add that on to this list? That's where I am. Can we?
We will certainly check that out. It's the same company that did the work last
Yeah,
year.
exactly.
It does have a warranty. So if there's a
Oh,
failure,
perfect.
they will repair that. And Tom said he'll go check it out.
Yeah.
If
and
you,
let them know.
if
when they
you'd
have
like,
their-
I'm the walker. If you'd like, I can shoot you some photos of it.
Okay,
Great.
I'll after the meeting, I'm going to go look at it because I
Okay,
travel that route every day and an inspection of the village. And I know you walk it.
I do.
But I'm driving, so what you're seeing, I might.
It drives fast.
Because I don't notice any potholes of any type of anything, but you're saying,
So
like,
while
yeah,
we have these guys,
Like the paint popped off.
yeah.
great. So while we have these guys in town, we can, okay,
Yeah.
that's the end of my questions.
Thank you.
I have one question for Wally. Myrtle Lane, does the village have any responsibility for that or not?
Tom will do that one. He's very
Yes,
familiar
yes,
with
we
it.
do take care of it. I was up there yesterday, and that is one that's going to be put on our list. What I'm hoping for next year once we get up in the district, and we're going to do some skin coat, blacktop in some of those broke up areas. It really
Great.
cracked up winter, sort of like the first layer of blacktop is coming off.
Yeah,
That's
that's my walking shortcut to get back home. So, yep.
You know, while we're on the topic of next year, thank you, Mike, for the segue. I want you to know that Albion should have been on this list because it ranked as needing to be resurfaced. However, to get the high scoring and the points needed for the state capital improvement program to do the hedgerow and Albion stormwater, the repair is critical, that it needs repair and work to gain the extra points. So by pushing this into next year, Albion Avenue, it'll help us get the grant for the stormwater work on hedgerow and Albion.
Mhm.
Hey,
Well, I
Wally?
also think it's important to note that we want the construction to be done before we take care of that street.
Yes.
I doubt if there'll be a street left.
Maybe not. Maybe Bethany will help us rebuild that street.
I have a question quickly about Little Creek Lane. Why is that? Why and when did the village take responsibility for Little Creek Lane?
I can answer when. It was 1980. It was accepted as a dedicated street.
And yet Warwick Place is not a dedicated street, and neither is Heatherington?
Well, when I was retired, I understood that Warwick became a dedicated street. Am I mistaken?
It's my understanding it's a dedicated street, but yet the homeowners association is still paying to have it repaid.
So Wally, if I can interject, yeah, I believe Warwick was on that. I'm not sure about Heatherington, but I do believe Warwick was on that list of streets that were.
Okay, I got the subdivisions crossed. I wasn't here, so I just heard about it. But when Warwick was developed, the developer came to us and said that he was not keen on doing dedicated standards. He wanted to use his options of making it a private subdivision. So no curbs were put in, and it was more of it did not meet the standards of dedicated. I know Mr. Swafford explored making it a dedicated street some 10 or 12 years ago, but the expense to put it up to that standard was far exceeded what they thought where the benefit would be.
All right, well, we can come back to this another time rather than delay this committee meeting, because I have always raised the question around Warwick Place when I was clerk treasurer. I think the village looked into these streets, these so-called private streets. And at that time, there was some comments made during the council meeting that Warwick was one of the dedicated streets. Nevertheless, it's unclear then, and it's unclear right now. So again, I'll not delay your meeting, Mike. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Well, do we know if it's a dedicated street or not? Do we have that answer?
On my map, it shows not dedicated.
Okay.
My map of the village.
We can have that answer very quickly. I'll look through the ordinances from 20, I believe it was.
When I left here in 2012, it was not dedicated. I had heard it became dedicated later, but I was mistaken. Apparently, it was another subdivision that the village.
Heatherington. It was Heatherington.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll revisit the 2016 council minutes and for that discussion too, to see if there's other documents which support whether or not it's dedicated. I just simply think we, the village and Warwick Place, need to clear this up. Thank you.
Sure. So are there any other comments about additional streets or other concerns about roads in general?
Can I say something about from last meeting that we all met? There were some discussions on speed bumps and things like that around our parks. And I have not had a chance to sit down with Chief Warman and ask his opinion. And so there has been no action since the last time we met.
Okay.
Alan,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
I may bring your attention to the speed bump, which is currently on Washington Avenue near the park, but it is situated in a very good spot on Washington Avenue, in my view. It was not there about a month or so ago when I walked the street, but yet it's there now. I don't know
You know
exactly.
something about that?
Actually, I can help you, and so can Tom. Chief Warman last week asked Tom Audifer to install our portable speed bump to see if it would assist.
Yeah, we got one.
We have one. So we set it down, we bolt it into the pavement, it easily comes back up. And we'll have to take it up in the fall because it will not hold up to snow plows. But he wanted to assist Mr. Duskin in
Yes,
his complaints about speeding. And
yes.
so we have one, he's testing it right now. He's also testing the speed trailer, as well as running some radar and giving tickets when needed.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know that we haven't come to any conclusions at all.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Al.
The process.
And perhaps we can use this as a pilot.
Okay. So I'll ask the question, is there a need to make a motion to accept this? In the past, what's mainly been done is that the road work is laid out. It's done based on the best efforts of Tom Aldorfer and Wally Cordes, and I have looked at it as well. It's ongoing road work through the normal course. I don't know that we've ever had a motion other than to approve awarding a contract. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman,
I should say.
I've taken the liberty of drawing up a draft ordinance to place before you on council in 2 weeks
Great.
to award this through the state purchase program, and should the committee recommend so.
Okay. So is there a recommendation from the committee that council award this work?
So moved.
Is there a second? I can second. So
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. So we'll make that recommendation to council. And Wally, you'll have that prepared for council.
Yes, sir, I will.
Excellent. Okay, I have no other business. Is there any other business that anybody has?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
may I have a minute to once again thank the village, especially the fire department, Wally, Tom, whomever else has been helping residents with the heavy rainfall that we've had in the past few days. I've been hearing from my neighbors on Warwick Place particularly, and they sincerely appreciate the help that has been given, including a house in particular up on Chester Road. I also want to emphasize the importance of keeping the storm drains cleared, because some of my neighbors have gone out and just voluntarily cleared the storm drain over on Willow Road after having spent over $6,000 to keep unwanted sewage seeping into their home on Warwick Place. So if we could keep the storm drains in mind, I think Alan mentioned the importance of storm drain work earlier on in this committee meeting, and somehow keep the importance of that, Tom, in particular, as you're touring the streets these days, in the forefront. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you.
And I just have one short question. We've got some pavement to be removed by Albion Crossing on both sides. It's been cut. It looks like we're very close to having CSX pick up the pavement and move it away. Does streets get involved at all in this process? I can't imagine, but I'd love to make sure that if we have to do anything, that we say something now, that so that the grass, the seeding, sodding, whatever it is, and the tree planting isn't in any way stalled on this. Are we involved in this at all, Wally or Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor.
We have been assuming, since this is the money for this project is coming out of the Quiet Zone Fund, that it's being done. But the truth of the matter is it's village money. So if we don't already have an ordinance appropriating the money for the work, we should do it, along with, we're also, I think, going to have an appropriation at the June 1st meeting for the work on the parking lot.
Right. Well, could we,
And Wally, is that in the works?
Well, it's my understanding that all of the quiet zone money was appropriated to allow us to pay the CSX bills, the rail authority bills, and Mr. Castanelli for his restoration work. The removal of the apron on CSX property, while it's connected to our street, I'm not sure how we're going to have additional oversight of that. It's happening. I think it was announced by the mayor 6 months ago. It was going to be removed.
Well, what's going to
It's the
happen is that
railroad's
work is going to be
responsibility
done.
in some ways.
The work is going to be done for landscaping, and we will be invoiced to the village, which we will pay, and we will then submit the invoices up to $5,000 to the state, and they will reimburse us. So if somewhere in there we need specific authority that we don't already have, yes, we will need an ordinance at council.
then
Okay.
shouldn't we have that ordinance in place for June 1?
Wally, let's talk about that when we, when we're putting the agenda together. We have a week and a half now to do it.
Yeah, this is not, okay, it's not streets. You're right, okay.
Okay. So any other business before this committee?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Now, Mayor, I will be on vacation next week and I will attend via Zoom.